Thumbs Up wasn't always the popular soda it is today. Let's take a brief look into how the presence of certain sodas in India evolved over time and led us to where we currently are at the moment. After India gained independence from Britain in 1947, Prime Minister Nehru introduced a political regime that was characterized by many moderate socialist economic reforms. In this new republic, one of the major drink players working in India, Pure Drinks Group, introduced Coca Cola to the country. To follow its major competition, Pepsi also entered India, but later left unsuccessfully in 1962 after the sales did not reach their intended standards. Over time, however, as Coca Cola grew its presence, politicians were growing increasingly nervous about the fizzy drink. Coca Cola was not only extremely present in India's metropolitan areas, but also reached many rural villages. The governmental restrictions put in place could not hold the soda giant back from conquering India. Coca-Cola's omnipresence in all regions of India ultimately contributed to its short-lived downfall. A 21-month period from 1975 to 1977 in India, called the Emergency, was a time of great political unrest. As one of the most controversial moments in Indian history, the emergency was caused by a multitude of factors, including slow industrial growth, loss of U.S. governmental aid, fallout from the 1971 Bangladesh Liberation War, and monsoons. During this period, the Prime Minister, Indira Gandhi, had her government suspend civil liberties, jail rivals, and break up protests. As soon as this period passed, however, Gandhi was dethroned by the Janata Party, which was an alliance that represented the interests of many different groups. One leader from this group, George Fernandez, wanted to kick out Coke from India, as clean water wasn't accessible in some regions of India when Coke was, and this was a clear health risk. Another factor that was working against Coke was that the regulations passed by Parliament during Gandhi's time was finally being enacted. The main one in consideration here is the Foreign Exchange Regulation Act of 1973, which required multinational organizations to hand over 60% of their equity in local subsidiaries to Indian partners. Let's talk about what the purpose of the Foreign Exchange Regulation actually was. At the time when these regulations were introduced, India's foreign exchange reserves were low. FARA therefore believed that all foreign exchange, or forex, earned by Indian residents should belong to the government of India and the Reserve Bank of India. Faced with the dilemma, Coca-Cola and many multinational organizations, such as Mobil and Kodak, left India as they didn't want to give up their stake in their Indian units.
Thumbs Up was introduced into the marketplace within India in 1977 to fill the vacuum left by Coca-Cola, as a result of the Coca-Cola Company leaving India in the same year due to pressure from the Foreign Exchange Act. It was later bought in 1993 by Coca-Cola in order to compete against Pepsi. Before the competition between Coke and Pepsi within India can be explained, the conflict must be understood on a global scale. Around the time that Thumbs Up began to grow popular in India, Coke held 33% of the world market share of soft drinks, while Pepsi only held 10%. Furthermore, while Coke generated 71% of its revenue in international markets, Pepsi generated 71% from solely the US market. Similarly, Coke earned 80% of its income abroad, while Pepsi earned 80% in the United States. It was with this disparity in market shares on an international level that Coke and Pepsi began their competition within India through the medium of Thumbs Up. Pepsi was launched in India in June of 1990. Thumbs Up began its initial competition with Pepsi, before it was bought by Coca-Cola, by targeting the 250 milliliter size of Pepsi drinks, claiming that it was a fast drink in comparison to its own 500 milliliter size. This conflict burgeoned with Coke re-entering the scene in 1993. The Coca-Cola Company bought the Parle-owned drinks Gold Spot, Limca, and Thumbs Up for $60 million, a time where Thumbs Up's market share was close to 85% in India. The soft drink market had effectively turned into duopoly, with major competition being waged between its two players, Pepsi and Coke, under the guise of Thumbs Up. However, due to the high price elasticity of demand, both Pepsi and Coke, through its major player Thumbs Up, have had to find a balance between sales volumes and prices in the last 2 decades. Therefore, they have priced their drinks similar to one another and have instead attempted to beat one another in market share acquisition within India through promotional campaigns. Today, as a result of Coca-Cola's ingenious move to buy up Thumbs Up, it is the industry leader of ready-to-drink beverage brands in India, with a market share of 49.9% in respect to PepsiCo's 19.6%. Although Pepsi has claimed that its sales growth of its beverages portfolio is ahead of the general industry growth number, thereby revealing that they are gaining consumer equity with good momentum, it is clear that the Coca-Cola Company, through Thumbs Up, remains the king of soda within India, reigning as the largest cola brand in India, on track to be the first Indian beverage to cross the $1 billion annual revenue mark before 2023.
Breaking news. Investigative journalists go
जाने
missing
माने
with top
जर्नलिस्ट
secret
महत्वपूर्ण
footage.
न्यूज फुटेज लाते समय हुए लापता, उनका प्लेन गायब।
They're never gonna make it.
In the summer of 2019, both Thumbs Up and Pepsi released their summer campaigns. They both utilized different marketing strategies and branding to increase sales of their product. Thumbs Up focused their summer marketing on the launch of their new soda variant, Thumbs Up Charged. As seen in the commercial, the campaign was focused on action, heroism, and thrill. The campaign featured popular Bollywood actor Ranveer Singh and model Diva Dhawan. The vice president of the sparkling category in Coca-Cola India and Southeast Asia, Shrenik Dasani, said, "With Thumbs Up Charged, our intent is to continue bringing the taste of thunder to consumers' taste buds, as we take things a notch higher in line with what consumers continually expect from Thumbs Up." This new Thumbs Up Charge campaign seeks to reinforce the never give up attitude, serve as a salute to the uncompromising virtue of heroes, and in the process encourage people to challenge themselves and unleash their true potential. Dasani continues by saying, "We are confident that consumers will find enjoyment and inspiration in this campaign brought to life by our hero." With this sentiment, Thumbs Up Charge seems to be advertising to a male audience with having more action-based commercial and focusing on the male character through audio clues.
यार प्रिंसिपल सर ने फिर बैन लगा दिया।
गाइस, अगर सर ने डिसाइड किया है कैजुअल्स अलाउड नहीं है तो नहीं है यार। सर प्लीज। नो कैप्स, नो जैकेट, नो टी-शर्ट, नो जीन्स।
Hey, enough is enough.
एक्सक्यूज मी सर। अभी एक घूंट तो बाकी है ना।
हर रॉन्ग को राइट बना दे, ऑसम का टैग है, तू कहे तुझको भी पिला दे, 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 हर घूंट में स्वैग है, पेप्सी।
Pepsi's summer campaign also had a specific focus. Pepsi's branding in India focused on the phrase "Har Gut Mein Swag," which roughly translates to swag in every sip. They branded using Instagram, TV ads, and TikTok. The director of marketing, hydration, and cola at PepsiCo India said, "Pepsi is a brand which has always resonated with the voice of today's generation. This summer, Pepsi is acknowledging and celebrating a word that defines today's millennials, swag." The campaign is all about living in the moment, seizing new and interesting opportunities, and doing it all with swag. The new campaign is a progressive approach to truly reflect the self-belief of today's generation. Pepsi has also utilized popular internet actors such as Tiger Shroff and Disha Patani in the past. This particular ad used current pop culture to sell the drink and market towards the younger generations.
I think all my distinct memories just attached to Thumbs Up or Pepsi in general are connected to family vacations visiting my grandparents in South India. More specifically, I just remember like having to travel to visit like more distant relatives in further away cities and taking the train, and my grandfather always purchasing a few Thumbs Up bottles for me and my siblings to share at the station.
When I think of Thumbs Up, I think a lot about my grandmother, and I think a lot about her running to the corner store when I would come, whether that would be for a vacation or whether to live with her for a couple months. Her kind of going to the corner store and really grabbing my favorite snacks, and one of those being Thumbs Up. And I remember when I would come back from the plane, be dropped off at her apartment by my uncle from the airport, it would be the first thing that I would have when I kind of arrived in India, because it was the one thing that I really, truly missed, was kind of drinking Thumbs Up on my porch with her and talking to her about the new things in her life and her updating her on what I've been kind of up to at Northwestern or throughout my time in America. And it's a really, really good way for me to connect with her. And it's also one of the ways that she shows love for me, is remembering that I really like Thumbs Up, but also just bringing it for me is kind of a big gesture in and of itself.
I remember growing up in the 80s as a teenager when I used to watch the advertisement by the Indian cricketers drinking Thumbs Up, and also some movie actors showing up in the Thumbs Up ad, which I still remember.
My memories of Thumbs Up was that it's not a drink that we had it on a frequent basis. We had it occasionally when we went to movies, because it's something that was advertised well when we as commercials during the movie, and it's something we had it rarely, so it was a treat to get that because of the financial situation we're in, and also because we knew it was not healthy. My parents didn't buy us a lot of that, and I think from a cultural perspective, soft drinks were not something that were accompanied with a meal. So it was something we just drank by itself, but not with a meal. Maybe with a snack sometimes, but I don't remember having it at home. It was only when we went out.
In regards to its representation of South Asian culture, I do think that is in itself a very big challenge, just because India is so regionally diverse. However, Thumbs Up, it's interesting to think about, but it does do a great job of unification in some sense, because it is available, I would argue, all throughout India. It's also heavily advertised all over, with connections to Bollywood actors and actresses, which I think is the film industry is so characteristic of South Asian culture.
I think the question of whether or not a food in general is a good representation of culture is very difficult, and I think what makes it very difficult is that everyone has interpreted their Indian culture differently. So my grandmother used to run to the corner store to be able to grab me Thumbs Up and my other snacks that I used to love. And for others, maybe it was different ways of love or different forms of culture that they experienced when they went to India, or in general just were connected with the Indian diaspora. So I think it's hard for me to personally kind of speak on behalf of Indian people generally, but I think that it is generally a really interesting way of kind of understanding Indian culture and food and drink.
I don't think Pepsi or Coke products are part of the traditional Indian food, as Indian food is defined by the authenticity of traditional food from the different part of the country.
I think the soft drinks were not something the poor or middle class had it on a frequent basis. And so I don't know, maybe it is a part of cultural thing for the higher end of the population. Like in America, it was so cheap to buy soft drinks, but in India, it was not so cheap. And it was not something that people had it at home. They would occasionally buy a few bottles to take it home, not like a 12-pack or a 24-pack that we used to do when we were in America, when we moved to America. So I don't think it's a significant part of the culture. the thumbs up, especially they used to have something called soda, and that's something we frequently, it's just it was not a thumbs up or it was not a branded thing. So there was some soda. That is something we frequently had. So I don't really think, the wealthy only constitute such a small percentage. So I really don't think it's a big part of the culture.